In December 1915, the armed merchant cruiser Wolf left Kiel to sail around icy Iceland and through the central Atlantic. After laying mines in front of the harbor of Cape Town, the Wolf has now cut into the Indian Ocean, reaching the central position in February 1915. And this is where our story begins.
Now there's no turning back. Your safety line has gone slack. There's no word from your friend at the opposite end, and the screen has gone black. And they're starting to fear that you'll never appear at the rendezvous point, 'cause the time's out of joint and the moment is near. You've passed the horizon, my event horizon. Since you've nowhere to go, there's one thing you should know. The quantum effect we've all come to expect isn't running this show. With what's is and what's not, no longer part of the plot. In this singular place, all of time, all of space is the size of a dot. Beneath the horizon, my event horizon. The end's always the same. Love's attraction's to blame. And my heart doesn't care if it's all or nowhere. That's not part of the game. There's no need to pretend, to explain or defend. Just look up at the sky and the clouds passing by on this day that can't end. Inside this horizon, our event horizon. Inside the horizon, our event horizon.
Welcome back, everybody, to our playthrough of Ark of the Kaiser's Last Raider with our very first mission. I'm sorry for the delay. There was some work going on I had to take care of, so I didn't really have the headspace to delve into this. Anyway, Wichewski, I told you about why his book is problematic, and I did actually do a little bit of research about the guy himself. Turned out, and that makes this thing even more problematic, that he joined right after the First World War. He joined the Marinebrigade Erhard, which was one of the Freikorps formations in the early Weimar Republic, involved in several brutal incidences, that is smashing the Munich Soviets, so to say, the Council Republic, rather, smashing the unrest in Silesia, being a core formation of the Kapp Putsch in 1920 in Berlin, which aimed to coup against the young republic. The government actually had to flee to southern Germany from Berlin, and trying to implement, well, a sort of dictatorship, totalitarian dictatorship, potentially bringing back the Kaiser, but probably rather not. And then after that formation was dissolved, after the Kapp Putsch had failed due to civil unrest and the worker unions, which quickly reacted to it, members of that Marinebrigade Erhard, they then were involved in several murders against politicians of the Republic. Afterwards, in the 1930s, he sort of turned to become a painter, apparently. And he had a central position then by 1938, so that was already under Hitler's dictatorship, National Socialist dictatorship that he had a central position in the Reich's art regulation society or something like that. I don't know what the exact English term would be for that. So that's just a little bit more background for you to enjoy. We shall start with our mission now. I want to remind you that if you consider to support me via Steady, you have a chance to name one of the characters that will be with us on a mission with your name, basically. We still have the captain, the first officer, the engineering officer, and the ship's doctor currently, but we can bring in more later on, or once we found out what the mission might be and so forth, or where it might be, then we could adjust and try to get some Marines or explorers or what have you. So if you want to do that, that would be highly appreciated, supporting my work, allowing me to do more of these videos more regularly, especially, which is the biggest issue I have. I don't have the time to do them regularly as much as I would love to. And there are so many games I have on my stack here on my shelf, but also there are new ones piling up besides it, and I don't really know where to put them. Anyways, let's get into the mission. We had assembled. If you didn't watch the setup prequel sort of episode, then go back and watch that first. It will run through how to set up the deck, how to set up the mission, how to set up your ship, and all of that. So, historically, the Wolf reached the Central Indian Ocean by February 1917. We will now argue that we are already here in 15 because, well, we are an author of a novel, right? We are writing a pulp fiction novel in the 1920s, in the roaring 20s, and we plan to write at least 6 of these novels, potentially more, but for the purpose of this place, probably 6. If there is much interest in those, and if you enjoy them, then let me know, potentially by considering supporting the channel, and then I might be doing more, but that is not decided yet. Okay, so we are here. We had some issues on the journey, and this is not part of the game. Some issues on the journey with the coal reserve. You know, back then the ships were still running with coal and steam, basically steam engines, so they had to load huge amounts of coal, and that was one of the reasons why the Wolf actually sort of needed to capture enemy ships, because they were running out of coal, and especially food, of course, but also coal, and they had to restock that, which they then took from the captured ships before sinking them. So that's a very interesting thing, and that's also a reason why actually the Imperial German Navy decided not to invest into a navy operation in the Indian Ocean or further to the east, because they played several Kriegsspiels actually to test such an approach, right? Pushing the Imperial Navy into the Indian Ocean, potentially, or part of it, and they quickly found out that this was impossible to maintain. There were not enough resources, there was no way to transport coal into the Indian Ocean to supply a battle fleet or a larger radar formation or whatever have you, to be of any success, and that would basically render this formation and those ships ineffective, but also make them most vulnerable to the enemy because they couldn't outrun them. As we know, especially the Royal Navy was ruling the seas. Yeah, Germany didn't really have much of power they could project into this area. We know that Qingdao, for example, or German East Africa here were of course German colonies. They had fallen already to the enemy. I'm not quite sure when exactly German East Africa surrendered. I think that it was much later. There's a lot to say about these colonial wars. It's still actually, I don't know if you're interested in that or if you know, but it's still of a sort of hot topic in Germany these days. Society is not really aware of the scope of what was going on, or I mean, there is a lot of historical research about it, and they don't get acknowledged. Basically, that's the thing. What Germany did, what the Kaiserreich did in East Africa and other colonies, isn't acknowledged. They led a war of annihilation purposefully in, for example, East Africa. There were also, of course, Cameroon, what's today Cameroon now, West Africa, where they did the same. But already before the First World War, it was a core strategy to starve and kill, well, the civilian population, basically, right? And they continued that, and the core actor or protagonist of that was Leto Vorbeck. And that thought hit me just right now because I recently saw a new game coming out by, I think, Compass Games or what have you. It's called Haya Safari, which in itself is already highly problematic. I think it's the romanticization and mystification of the German colonial adventures, if you so will, in Africa. And Leto Vorbeck, he already served before the World War as a sub-commander and took central part in these annihilation campaigns. And then during the First World War, when he was in command against the British here in Africa, he continued this strategy, and at least 300,000 civilians were starved to death by that strategy. That is, making dwells unusable, destroying crops and food depots, marching civilians to death, basically. Let them continuously have them march and carry packages and whatnot, resources for the Germans. And they had their Askari force, of course, which were black soldiers, but yeah, again, at least 300,000, if not 500,000 civilians were killed or died because of the consequences of this strategy. Just so you know. And that I think it's easy from a historical perspective, and I stop with those notes in a second, but it's easy to forget about that because the game doesn't really mention any of these events, neither in Africa or other parts of East Asia. And on top of that, it's easy to forget about what it means to fight basically a world war during the imperialist colonialist era. And I think that's a bit of a thing we need to remember from time to time, because if we look at these nice pictures of old ships and what have you, and think about adventures and all that, it might lead us to create an idealized, romanticized image of the war. Now, then let's start properly. So the wolf is currently here. Let me have a look at the camera. It looks good. Sorry for the noises from the outside, but it's pretty warm and I have the balcony door opened for that. So we are in an Indian Ocean central position. We know that our friendly port currently is on the Nicobar Islands, and we need to sail over there to get information on the location of our objective. And to remind you, I decided to play with the objective card face down. There is the rules contradict each other, or I think the rule book says you have to place them face up, so you know what the mission is and you can prepare for that mission. But then there is a card in that deck, or in those others who might become part of the deck in another mission, which allows you to turn that mission face up, so that either that card is wrong or the rulebook is wrong. Turned out by clarification on Board Game Geek, I believe, that in fact that card shouldn't be in the deck, but I quite like it. It makes the game a little bit more challenging and gives you an incentive to use intelligence actions to actually reveal what is the type of the mission. Alright, so we are here. We need to reach this position, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces away. This route to the east through the Indian Ocean East position here, or which should rather be, I think, the, what is it, Java Sea, which strangely this location is called. Doesn't make any sense to me, but okay. So this is Java Sea or Indian Ocean East. This is an enemy patrol zone, and we would have to draw 2 plot cards when we stop there. I believe we might even have to stop there. Let me double check that. Must stop upon entering, yes. So the much more peaceful sail is assumed to be this route. Then next question would be the speed. We have to determine the speed. Currently our Wolf merchant cruiser is at cruising speed. That means we can move 1 space and then we have to draw a card and so forth. Or we can increase our speed by moving full speed ahead with maximum speed that allows us to move 2 spaces per turn. But then we have to make an exhaust check, or expenditure check rather, on the extra coal that is spent on that, and there is a 50-50 chance to lose that. I have 2 resources of extra coal in the cargo hold, but I don't think that is necessary right now, so we will just move 1 space. We now have to pick a plot card and follow its instructions, and we are immediately encountering a nemesis, which is an allied merchant man. Has a savvy of 0, which is good, combat and defense of 1. If you defeat this, select 1 point of gear and lose 1 deadline. Time to put captured crew ashore. This is an interesting thing, because historically the Wolf, which had already started its cruise with 350 crew, would pick up everybody of the captured ships, because they couldn't risk going ashore or sailing into any harbor, or like sailing close to shore, then anchoring there and all that stuff. They had to be constantly on the move. Anyways, I think we will engage this enemy merchant. Alright, so first of all, as we are playing with the advanced rules, we are using the enhanced contact, which means we first of all have to determine whether it's day or night. I rolled a 3, which means it's bright daylight. We actually do have a searchlight installed, so that would have made it easier for us to spot the enemy ship during the night, but that doesn't matter now. Next, we then need to determine whether we actually make contact or the enemy manages to break off. So the enemy rolls 0 because they have a savvy of 0. We have a savvy of 1, that is the Captain Jan, because nobody of you wanted to pick him. Captain Jan has a savvy of 1 currently. He also uses his size binoculars, and they have an expenditure chance of 1 to 6, so I'm adding a green die, and if the green die rolls 1, then they are destroyed, malfunctioning, what have you. So that is 2 savvy, because the size binoculars also have the iron cross symbol, which is the savvy symbol in this instance. We could use the first officer, I believe, or the seaplane even. But I don't think that is a situation where we want to use our seaplane. It also has a 1 out of 6 chance to get destroyed. It would also add to combat and intelligence, but that's nothing we want to do. So the only thing we have would be the first officer, and the rules are not quite clear on this. You can use crew, 1 crew and 1 gear to increase your savvy per round of combat, but we are still in the contact procedure. So, well, but as the rules are laid out, it's meant to be that we can use 1 crew. So let's do that. Let's have the first officer also be on watch, so to say, together with the captain, apparently screening the horizon, and then they see an allied merchantman. And I rolled a 5, 3, 3, and a 3 for the binoculars, so those are not destroyed. They are still intact. 5, 3, and 3. Now that's an issue because whoever rolls more 6s gets the drop. That means decides what's going to happen next. And with the advanced rules, I believe if both sides roll the same number of 6s, you get the drop. If neither side rolls any 6s, the nemesis breaks off, combat immediately ends, neither side wins or loses. So that was a failure then. The merchantman scuttles away, it's not destroyed, just discarded, and well, nothing happens. We continue with the next turn. We move another space, we draw another card, because, I mean, objective phase wasn't the case, then we go back into outfitting repairing. We are not in harbor and we don't have anything we need to repair or heal. Then we go to the intelligence phase, where we don't have any options to take an intelligence action right now, so back to the movement phase. We moved. Now the plot card phase. We have an incident, an iceberg. We encounter an iceberg right there off the eastern shore of India. That's well, this card goes into effect only if you are in the Antarctic space. Okay, that explains this, or within 3 spaces of it. We are very far away from Antarctica, so we do not lose the deadline. This is discarded. Very well, then we sail on to the shores of Calcutta, and we encounter potentially an allied convoy. This card goes only into effect if you are in the allied patrol zone, which is not the case. The patrol zones are these triangulars, but we are in a circle position, so still nothing happening. We continue our journey, still at cruising speed. We have good sailing. We gain a deadline point. That's very good. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to engage that enemy merchantman, but yeah, so far it's very easy sailing. Did I move already? Wait a second, or did I draw? I think I have to move first, right? And then we draw a cliché card, which is called Solar Eclipse. You must have a scientist to play this card, which we currently do not. We could play this during any combat to automatically gain the drop, and plot thins. Potentially we keep that card because we currently can have a maximum of 3 in hand, and if we should pick up a scientist, then this becomes an option. Now we are entering the Nicobar Islands, where there is this friendly port, to gather information on the objective. As we have entered a friendly port on the Nicobar Islands, which basically is a secret little base in a hidden beach or something, we have to roll on the port encounter table. We don't have power boats with us, so we only roll 1 die and check the outcome. It is a 4. We encounter a beer hall. Well, a beer hall on the Nicobars. Alright. You may select 1 cliché card from the discard and add it to your hand, but there is none on the discard, I think. Well, so maybe that was just an illusion then. Alright, so we have checked that. So there's no raiding and all that because it's a friendly port. We could, at the beginning of the next turn, buy stuff here, but we won't do that. I'm also wondering, should I have reduced the deadline actually? No, deadline is only removed as a result of one of the plot cards, so that didn't happen. We gained 1 for smooth sailing, but that is it. Alright, then we do, however, still have to pick a plot card, which is an Allied naval patrol. An Allied naval patrol is trying to intercept us here, which is interesting. If we defeat the Nemesis, we gain 1 deadline, otherwise we lose a deadline. They do have a savvy of 2 and combat defense of 3. So they do have a savvy of 2. Let me pick 2 green dice. We have 1 for the captain, 1 for the binoculars, and I will roll for expenditure afterwards then. I will use the first officer once again to gain a 3rd die. And that's all we got, right? Or we use the seaplane now. Wait a second, I can use 1 and 1, right? Correct. So 1 crew and 1 equipment, and the captain already used his binoculars. So that's 2 to 3 dice. Oh, first of all, we have to check if it's day or night. And a roll of a 4 should be daylight, yes. So then, who gets the drop? Again, there were no 6s rolled, which is a bit weird now. Let me see. Let me double check. I think they break off again. Both sides roll the nice number. If neither sides roll the 6, the Nemesis breaks off. Combat immediately ends. If this is a port raid, then you instead withdraw. No, we are not raiding the port. It's a friendly port. So, in our narrative, the Allied Naval Patrol was patrolling around, well, the Java Sea, I would think, along the Java shore. And they almost spotted the Wolf sailing into the Nicobars. But they missed us. Apparently they missed us. I still have to roll for expenditure of this size binoculars though. On a 5 they are intact and nothing happens. Okay, so that was the plot card. There's no combat. Now we go into the objective phase. Because we have now reached this friendly port, and which is the last friendly port on the map, we get to find out about the location of the objective. We are basically meeting agents of the Kaiserreich, and they tell us where the actual objective is. 4, and then a 3 is Nicobar Islands. What happens if we are already there? Alright, so I have consulted the rules, and first of all, this is of course not happening in phase 7 of the turn during the objective phase. That would be us trying to actually successfully resolve the mission objective. So this is the beginning of next turn. We are currently in a friendly port. We may outfit and repair or recruit, which we don't want to do. We then go into the intelligence phase, but we still have no intelligence actions to take. And then at the beginning of the movement phase, this port friendly is removed and it becomes a... Okay, so this port is now visited, but doesn't really matter. What this means is that we, from now on, we can't outfit and repair here anymore. So then, as this happens, as the port marker, friendly port marker was removed, we then roll the die to determine the location of the objective. And apparently, this is a thing. The objective can be right here. We didn't know about that, but it is right here. It gets placed as soon as this marker is removed. So here we are then. The objective is on the Nicobars, which is very convenient, isn't it? Another plot card, which is an uncharted reef. Oh my god, we have to sail around that. Or maybe there is an incident where the Wolf is anchored in one of these beaches in the Nicobars and is drifting due to torrents and winds, and suddenly one of the maids aboard sees through the crystal blue sea of the Indian Ocean, sees a coral reef, and sharp rocks emerging under the water surface, and he cries out that there is danger for the ship, so they have to relocate. We lose a deadline for that, alright, nothing to worry about right now. Then we go into combat, there's no combat, and objective phase. So now, because we are here, we reveal the objective, and it is a relief force. We need to have a savvy success of 1, that means roll with all our savvy we have, roll at least 1 6. We would get a bonus die if we had Marines aboard, because apparently this friendly port was, this base we had here was under pressure, under attack by the Entente forces, by the British and the French, or maybe, I don't know, would the Japanese sail into the Indian Ocean? Maybe they would. But let's say it's the British, because they are operating here in the Indian Ocean and the Calcutta Seas and so forth. If we succeed, we roll 1 die and select that number of cargo. And it seems to be actually cargo and not cargo points. So currently we don't really have space, but anyways. We will try to achieve that. So how much savvy do we have? The captain has a savvy of 1. Then we have the binoculars for another 1. We have the first officer for another 1. And we do have the seaplane for a 4th savvy point. I do believe, so that's how I'm reading the rules, that we can use any and all crew and equipment for this, not just 1. So let's see, roll a number of dice equal to your current savvy rating. This is for the radar rating plus any crew and gear used. It doesn't say you can only use 1 like in combat. Plus the crew will designate certain crew types. For each of that crew type, roll 1 extra die. That is Marines. We don't have Marines. Certain cards can give you additional die rolls for extra savvy, which we do not have. And then we need to roll a 6 to resolve. And there is no 6 again. I haven't rolled a single 6 during this mission, which is sort of hilarious. Okay, so we failed that. We lose 1 deadline. We are still trying to, I don't know, maybe find our way through the jungle on the Nicobar Islands to that very spot where our comrades are surrounded and under attack. We go back into outfitting, repairing and so forth, but the port is visited, so we can no longer use it. However, we do not have to fear being captured. If we sail into allied or enemy ports or neutral ports, we have to move out on the next turn, otherwise we get interned, right? So intelligence is not necessary. Movement, we don't want to move, but another plot card is drawn, and again an allied naval patrol is potentially engaging us. We have to check for that. We have 1, 2. Shall we use 2 savvy first officer and then 1 for the captain? I'm using the binoculars, so that's 3 dice with an expenditure check, and the enemy is rolling 2. So let's roll their savvy first. No 6s, and now that's a 6 on the expenditure. Again, no 6s. The binoculars are all right. The enemy again is breaking off, and that might be, I don't know, might be a little bit too easy. Let me know what you think about that roll, or rule rather. That reduces the chance of actually us engaging enemies here. And we have not defeated them, so that means, do we still enact that? I would think so. So let's lose another 2, because we had 1 allied naval patrol before. They still haven't managed to catch us, and we haven't managed to catch them. Well, as we have crew on land and just a mere armed merchant cruiser, we probably don't want to engage in allied naval patrol anyway, at least not at the moment. Okay, so then that was the plot. There's no combat. We go back to the objective, and we will be using these again. I should have rolled actually on expenditure for the binocular and the seaplane. And the seaplane actually is damaged. I will turn it around because I shall try to regain it afterwards. That's a bit of an issue. The Wölfchen, which is sort of the German cute version of Wolf, is damaged and unable to take off again. That reduces our available 7x1 though, and we go again with 3 dice and an expenditure, and there we have A6. Can you actually see the dice? No, you can't. A6, and that was the check for the binoculars. So a 6 is what we need. We roll 1 die and select that number of cargo. It's 1, lol. It's a 1. So, as it happens, we restore a seaplane. We find a seaplane. So we put this here, we put the mission accomplished marker there. The objective marker, I believe, would be removed. I don't know. For the sake of the game, we leave that here just to have it visualized. Okay, our landing mission was successful. We have relieved the enemy. There was a firefight, a skirmish firefight going on. They were sort of surrounded, and we've pulled them out and driven off the enemies, and we apparently have found a new light seaplane which we can use on our cruiser. So that's good. And now we have to decide where we want to leave and try to get back home. We could do that via the Mediterranean or the Coral Sea or the Cape of Good Hope, or there are other encounters which might be in that deck. So I will argue which route is the quickest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to the Coral Sea. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15 to the Cape of Good Hope. And then it's very, very dangerous to go through the Suez Canal, which I don't think I want to risk. So let's try to sail into the Coral Sea in the Pacific, shall we? So there's no intelligence we need to take or could take, so we move out. 1, drawing a plot card. It's a cliché confrontation. Play in combat with an Uber-nemesis or during objective resolution, gain 1 savvy and 1 combat. Filling the plot by 1. Okay, we keep that card and we move on. Still at cruising speed along the Java coast. It's another cliché. A Kaiserliche Marine control officer. You must have a wireless to play this card, which we do have a wireless with us, a radio there. If we play it during the intelligence, we can perform objective intelligence, which we do not need. If we play it during the outfitting or repair phase, we would gain 2 points of gear. Don't really need any of those currently. Then we cruise into the Indian Ocean East, and we have to stop here, even if we were sailing at max speed, which would usually allow us to sail 2 spaces. We have to stop in a patrol zone and draw 2 plot cards here. A gentleman banker. Play during the movement phase. Select any one available crew and add them to your radar. That's interesting. I have to discard one of these clichés now because I'm over the limit. Confrontation is something I want to keep. The control officer is something I want to keep, and then the gentleman banker. We keep that and discard the solar eclipse. And then the second one is another cliché, map of uncharted waters. Play during the plot card to bottom a plot card you have just drawn without it going into effect. Play in the movement phase to enter the Antarctica space without an ice cutter. Oh, interesting. Let us keep that. That seems to be a good bonus. I think I will remove the Gentleman Banker then, though I just picked them up. Alright, so then we continue. 1, 2, 1, 2. I think I will go to maximum speed now. Moving 1, 2 spaces. Now I have to check for extra coal expenditure on a 1 to 3. Yeah, that's the case. We rolled a 1. Extra coal is discarded. Drawing a plot. It's an incident. Hieroglyphics. Only into effect if you have a scientist. We don't. Then I will sail at max speed again to first of all check for expenditure of extra coal on a 5. It's not expanded. Very good. We are sailing along Bali and these islands here into the Bismarck Archipelago, which here is called the Java Sea, which, yeah, maybe I need to print a sticker to put on that. Again, this is a patrol zone, and the Great White Hunter is engaging us. What might that be? What might that be, the Great White Hunter? Apparently, that would probably be some sort of a shark or something. I don't know. It has a savvy of 5. It's an Übernemesis. This is very, very interesting. The Great White Hunter. Well, let's imagine this is some sort of a battle cruiser, an allied battle cruiser. It's called the Great White Hunter by the German Kaiserliche Marine, the Navy guys, because it's painted in a sort of white and black stripe pattern, you know, which they use to hide the silhouette of the ships at the horizon, and this sort of has a very bright white paint on it. So that's the nickname the sailors gave it, and they live in fear of engaging it because it seems to have extra strong armor. You can see this here, defense of 5, and be sort of well, a cruiser killer, so to say. And now we are engaging it with our mere armed merchant cruiser, which is dreadful. Okay, let us roll for enemy savvy. No, first of all we roll for day or night. On a roll of 2 it's day. Then we roll for enemy savvy with 5 dice. They have not a single 6, which is good, which is pretty darn good. So we have 1 savvy for the captain, 1 savvy for the binoculars, 1 savvy for the first officer, and let's use the seaplane too. So I have to do 2 expenditure rolls afterwards. Is there any 6? Yes, there is 1 6. I rolled a 6. Pretty darn good. Okay, let's see if the binoculars break. No, and the seaplane is all good. Awesome sauce. Okay, so we have the drop on the enemy. That means in this case that we can decide whether or not we want to break off or engage in combat. We are 1 space away from heading out of the area of operations, having successfully accomplished our mission, and the big question is, do we want to destroy the Great White Hunter? Is Captain Jan in this mindset, in the spirit of engaging the enemy? He's sailing with a disguised merchant cruiser. It's painted in sort of probably a British pattern, has a fake smokestack on top, imitating another ship, and it's sailing, heading straight towards the Great White Hunter, this cruiser killer, and we will try to engage them, which I can use the confrontation. Could already have used that for gaining another 7, but anyways, I didn't. For that, the plot thins by 1. We're describing in our novel a dramatic engagement here, confrontation with that Übernemesis. Okay, we get to attack first. We do have 4 guns, so we get 4 dice for that, and I think we want to use our torpedoes. I will take a green die for a torpedo, And let's use 2 torpedoes right away. I think that is possible. So we are revealing, we are sailing very close to the enemy. Now we are dropping off our side hull, revealing our board guns and the torpedo tubes we have aboard. And we will fire with everything we have. We can use actually also the seaplane, which provides another attack. So the Wolfian is back in the air and well, shooting down out of the sun, aiming for the deck and crews of that allied battle cruiser and firing away with their machine guns. And the captain could also use his auto pistol, which I'm not going to do. But let's see, we need to gain 5 hits. So the radar guns hit on a 5 and 6. Oh, that's great. So that's 3 hits by the guns. And the torpedoes on 3, 4, or 5. So that's 4 hits. And then the other ones are misses. The crew and gear on 5 and 6. Yeah. Oh, and I get 1 additional die for the confrontation, of course. I didn't roll that. So let me do that. Also on a 5 or 6. Nope, it's a 1. Okay. And then I have to check for the seaplane. Does it get destroyed? Yes, it is destroyed. Oh my god. The seaplane is shut down. Oh my god. That's a bit of an issue. Anyways, we do have we did inflict 4 hits on the enemy. Let's track that because hits are tracked. The issue now is that the enemy is going to fire back with 3 dice. Rolling 2 5s and a 2. Is a 5 a hit by the enemy? Let's have a look. We did fire... Oh, we also had extra ammo, right? Double the number of die rolls for each ship's gun and torpedo. Wow, we could have destroyed them right away. I missed that. Oh my god. The enemy, the Nemesis is firing at you. A die roll of 5 or 6 hits the radar. So that's 2 5s. We got hit twice by the enemy. Have to roll on that. Okay, so we rolled 2 dice on, because we have taken 2 hits by the enemy here on the standard hit table. It's a 6 and a 6. Oh my god! Explosion! Oh no! 2 explosions on the Wolf. Now we have to roll on the critical hit table, and it's a 2 and a 4. A 2 is lose all coal. Well, that's a bit of an issue. There was 1 extra coal we had here. And we rolled 1 die for each other gear on a 6. That gear is eliminated. Okay, so binoculars? No. Cruiser handbook? No. Auto pistol? No. The wireless? No. The medical kit? No. Spare parts? Almost. Extra ammo? No. The searchlight? No. And the Maxim gun. Oh, I didn't use the Maxim gun to attack. What's happening? What's going on? I could easily have destroyed them in 1 go. Oh man. Okay, and then I rolled a 4 with the other one. Lose 1 hull point. Okay, we can take that down to 3. And 1 engine point. So we can now only sail at cruise speed. Man. Alright, okay. But we're still in good shape. Could have been much better. That attack, I failed to do that. Alright, so we're going into the next round of combat. And we're using our 4 guns. We don't have any torpedoes left. We are using the Maxim machine gun for another 3. We still have +1 for the cliché, I think. Play in combat. It doesn't say if it's discarded after 1 round of combat. So we stick with it. So the seaplane is damaged or destroyed. We could use the auto pistol. So apparently we are very close. So let's make sure we sink that. We then have to roll for the auto pistol. and the Maxim gun. Okay. I will use 1/6. Not a goddamn single 6. Can you believe it? Is there a reroll card? No, apparently not. Oh wow, I should have used the extra ammo. We didn't want to use that. We don't have a single 6, but however, 1/5. No, 5 is enough to hit with the gun and the gear as well. Yeah, crew and gear also hit on 5 and 6. Okay, so that is then sufficient. That's the 5th hit here on the enemy, the Great White Hunter. Awesome. Is it destroyed immediately or does it still get to fire? If the number of hits exceeds the defense rating of the Übernemesis, then you win the combat. Place the Übernemesis card in the discard pile, and then it and all discarded cards are reshuffled back into the deck. Alright, so apparently the Great White Hunter, this battle cruiser, took a severe hit and they decided to disengage. This card goes back into the discard, and all the discard is now shuffled back into the deck. Only some of the plot cards allow to actually destroy an Übernemesis. Otherwise it sticks with us for the narrative. They will return and they will engage again. There also is an option to actually capture the Übernemesis using gas bombs, I think, but those are not available to us yet. Alright, so this is already shuffled back in, so potentially we might draw them right away. Okay, so that was the combat phase. We move on and cruising speed. Still have to draw one plot card, so this might be... Okay, it's the solar eclipse again. Let's keep that. I'm not quite sure if we are allowed to keep all of them as we go on into the next mission, but what this means is that the Wolf is now sailing the Pacific and circumnavigating the world. They're coming out at the Magellan Straits and then back into the Atlantic. Apparently they evaded the Allied patrol, successfully relieved that friendly group here on the Nicobar Islands, and we still have enough deadline. You need 3 deadline to circumnavigate via the Pacific. We do have that, so that is a success, which is really good. So mission is accomplished. We start the next game at the next higher episode, so we would go to episode 2, the first sequel, and that means we also get to shuffle in new cards, rebuild the deck with new cards. We add 1 savvy to the raider, so the captain has gained experience by fighting, accomplishing the mission and fighting the White Hunter. We gain 1 die additional cargo points. It's a 1, so we have 11. We discard the objective card. It cannot be used again in this series, so this card is out of the game. We keep the captain, of course. We can keep the same ship, which we will do. We can keep any cargo we have, which we will do. All wounded crew is restored. There is no wounded crew, which is great. All ship ratings are restored other than the savvy, so torpedoes go back, this, and the hull is repaired back to 4. We reset the deadline and plot thins. Deadline is already in the right spot here for episode 2, because now we do have less time to finish our next novel, right? And we remove these markers, of course, for the next mission. And let's finish the preparations for the start of the next mission, but that will be another episode, another novel. So what I want to buy back is the seaplane, of course. The seaplane, 3 points to get it back. Well, that's harsh. 1, 2, 3 points to get another seaplane. And I want to take extra coal again, both of them. Extra coal costs half a cargo point, that's great. So down to 7, that gives us 2 extra coal, and we are completely refueled and ready to head out again in our second episode. I will see you then, and please consider liking, subscribing, sharing this video, commenting what you liked about the game, or if you want me to do more of a narrative editing afterwards. Please consider supporting the channel by subscribing to my Steady campaign or tipping me via Tipeee or PayPal or what have you. That is very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Have a very great day and see you with the next episode. Bye bye.
The end's always the same. Love's attraction's to blame. And my heart doesn't care if it's all or nowhere. That's not part of the game. There's no need to pretend, to explain or defend. Just look up at the sky and the clouds passing by on this day that can't end. Inside this horizon, our event horizon. Inside the horizon, our event horizon.